Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel and our year to shine. We are on another section of Brene Brown's book, The Gifts of Imperfection, talking about all of her guideposts. I wonder if you're gaining some really good insight from this book. I know I'm really glad to be revisiting it after a long time. So tonight's topic is cultivating calm and stillness and letting go of anxiety as a lifestyle. We talked about that in another video about overworked, right? And being, what was it? It was actually the last one, right? It was exhaustion as a status symbol. Yeah, and productivity as self-worth. So this one seems to be very well tied into the last one about play and rest. And I shared that I need to work on that one. I think I also need to work on this one as well. And in this section, she gets into a little bit more about mindfulness that we touched upon in another guidepost as well. And she shares when she had her, she called it a spiritual awakening, some people called it a breakdown, that when she went to see a therapist, and being a therapist of her own, it's sort of challenging, she says, to go to therapy in the first place because, like, you have to find the right therapist that's going to be really real with you. And so Brene is going on, and I think I'm a lot like Brene from the way that she describes herself, because she was sort of in this whole tizzy of, like, I can't do this and this and blah, 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 you know, she's just rattling off all these things. And then her therapist is sort of reframing it as therapists do. And first she said, I can't go on like this. Like, I can't, this is too much, you know? And then before she even reframed it, her therapist sort of let some silence go by, which is also very effective too, right? Because it gets you thinking. But so she says, it finally dawned on me, this is Brene saying this, I get it. I can't function this way. So it wasn't about the circumstances, it was about her reaction to everything. I can't function with this much anxiety anymore. I don't need to figure out a way to keep going at this level of anxiety. I need to figure out how to be less anxious. Exactly, right? Because I might have said this at one point. I think I go to anxiety. I mean, I mentioned anger is like my go-to thing, and I think that's how I express anxiety, is like I start to get annoyed about things. But I think I'm an anxious person in a lot of ways, and so I think I could relate to that because I'm always thinking, like, I need to put myself in a different situation where I won't be anxious. But the fact is, I find small things to be anxious about. So I think this whole anxiety as a lifestyle, I'm not meaning to do it like the other things we talked about in the last video, but it is happening. So Brene is right there with us. So she says, I used my research to formulate a plan to lessen my anxiety. The men and women I interviewed weren't anxiety free or even anxiety averse. They were anxiety aware. They were committed to a way of living where anxiety was a reality but not a lifestyle. So this is reminding me of how she talked about the shame resilience, and how if you can sit with the shame and acknowledge it and work through it and then let it go, then that's going to be more effective than ignoring it or getting angry and causing a reaction towards another person, perhaps. So in this case, you're still acknowledging that there is anxiety, but then you're not allowing it to take over your life. Calm and stillness may sound like the same thing, but she learned that they're different. And she said we need to talk about both. So you know how she has her definitions. Let's see. Calm, she defines calm as creating perspective and mindfulness while managing emotional reactivity. That makes sense, because things are coming at you, but you're creating perspective and mindfulness while managing your reactions, your emotional reactions. And I mean, I'm not going to read this whole thing, but I agree with her with this too. You know when someone is calm around you for sure. And she says it's funny that she's so anxious in general, but then she said she's actually a pretty calm parent. So remember I talked about how you can sort of compartmentalize things sometimes, where you're really confident in one area, but then you're struggling in another. So this calmness can be that way too. Maybe you're very calm at home, and then you are insanely anxious at work. So it's not the same unless you're just anxious all the time, which some people are too. If we choose to heal with calm, we have to commit to practicing calm. So just like the gratitude, we have to practice calm too. Small things matter. For example, there are things that you can do, like count to 10 and give ourselves permission to say, I'm not sure, I need to think about this some more. It's also extremely effective to identify the emotions that are the most likely to spark your negativity, and then practice some non-reactive responses. And she goes on to talk about, I think I remember this advertisement. She talks about an advertisement that was on television where two people were having this huge fight, and they were like, I never want to talk to you again, you don't understand me, and they're going back and forth. And then very calmly they slammed doors, and then they come back together and they go, all right, I think we're ready. And they were acting out what might happen when they talk to their child about doing drugs. So in that way, they were practicing like all the things that could have happened. I think I'm probably not describing it correctly, but I think one of them took turns being the reactive one, and the other one just remained calm. So they had to really practice it. So how could you translate that? You could ask friends to try to sort of act out a scenario that always gets you anxious, and practice being calm in it. You could. So she shares that for her, breathing is the best place to start. Just taking a breath before she responds, she says, that slows me down, and immediately I start spreading calm. Sometimes I actually think to myself, I'm dying to freak out here. Do I have enough information to freak out? Will freaking out help? The answer is always no. I like that. I should just put that up at my desk. Yeah. Is freaking out going to help right now? All right, and then on to stillness. The concept of stillness is less complicated than the concept of calm. But for me, at least, it's way more difficult to put into practice. I wish I could tell you how much I resisted even hearing people describe stillness as an integral part of their wholehearted journey. From meditation and prayer to regular periods of quiet reflection and alone time, men and women spoke about the necessity for quieting their bodies and minds as a way to feel less anxious and overwhelmed. Absolutely. And don't we all know that? Maybe for the anxious, we don't want to admit that. And so she does talk about how she had to really have a paradigm shift, because her idea of meditating was sitting in yoga pants with the crossed legs, and like this is my response, or my description of trying to meditate too. She would sit there and go like, okay, you're not supposed to think, don't think of anything. Oh damn, you're thinking of something. Oh no, don't think of that. It's like you're having this internal conversation with yourself, because if you have a busy creative mind, then it can be distracted by that sort of meditation. But it's not even about that. And there's so many ways that you can meditate, and I prefer the ones that are guided, but you could also focus on something. You could focus on music. You could focus on sound, like I'm hearing my fridge right now in the background. Like I could focus on that. So it's not necessarily totally not thinking at all. It's just stilling and calming everything. I don't know if stilling is a word. It's causing things to be still. So here's what she says. Stillness is not about focusing on nothingness. It's about creating and clearing. It's opening up an emotional, clutter-free space and allowing ourselves to feel and think and dream and question. So in that respect, I think that the time that I spend on Sundays, and I shared with you last summer that I have a place I like to go up to on the lake, and sometimes I just look out on the water and I'm thinking and I'm journaling, and that's my sort of meditation. I don't really want to sit cross-legged in yoga pants and chant. Once we let go of our assumption about what stillness is and supposed to look like and find a way to create a clearing that works for us, we stand a better chance of opening ourselves up and confronting the next barrier of stillness, which is fear. And it can be a big fear. If we stop, okay, so here's the fear, and I totally get this. If we stop long enough to create a quiet emotional clearing, the truth of our lives will invariably catch up with us. We convince ourselves that if we stay busy enough to keep moving, reality won't be able to keep up. So we stay in front of the truth about how tired and scared and confused and overwhelmed we sometimes feel. Of course, the irony is that the thing that's wearing us down is trying to stay out in front of feeling worn down. This is the self-perpetuating quality of having anxiety. It feeds on itself. I often say that when we start having a 12-step meeting for busy holics, they need to rent out a football stadium. Yeah. There are probably more busy-aholics than there are alcoholics. In addition to fear, another barrier that gets in the way of both stillness and calm is how we were raised to think about the practices, of course. There might be some sort of negative connotation about, well, first of all, we talked about even taking time to play, so it might be another thing like that where someone's thinking like, well, you're not doing anything, so how is that productive? And I heard something once that said, if you can't meditate 20 minutes a day, then you need to meditate, or 20 minutes maybe 3 times a week or something. Then it was like, you need to meditate for an hour every day. It was like, if you can't even put a small little amount into it, then actually what you really need is more. In our increasingly complicated and anxious world, we need more time to do less and be less. When we first start cultivating calm and stillness in our lives, it can be difficult, especially when we realize how stress and anxiety define so much of our daily lives. Correct. But as our practices become stronger, anxiety loses its hold and we gain clarity about what we're doing, where we're going, and what holds true meaning for us. So this also makes me think of the list that she shared that we should do with the last guidepost. It was the one about what is working. They did it for their family. It was, where are you? I forget what she called it exactly. Ingredients for joy and meaning. So I would think that probably on your list would be, if you could have your ideal situation, it would be that you had more time to just think and relax and chill. Even if your meditation is just sitting in your chair. I mean, I don't know if television could be a part of meditation, but maybe it's your way that you unwind and you escape into something else that takes you away from your life. But that could also, I suppose, turn into a numbing activity. So in this sentence, in so many words, she is sort of saying that when you're numbing yourself with this anxiety lifestyle and you're just overscheduled and overworked, and you're numbing yourself out from actually sitting with your emotions and maybe realizing that you're not very happy, and that is hard. And I think for me, I try to keep busy a lot of times because I am afraid if I have too much time to sit around and realize how sad I am, then I end up having a bad day and I might cry for a couple hours. So I'm doing better and I have help, but I understand what she's saying, and I think some people are prone to anxiety, and some people, they wouldn't even know what to do if they didn't have the anxiety. They might feel like it's boring, or they're not putting their skills to work or something. And I can understand that. Like, if you have a really stressful job right now and then you went into a job that was so easy and there wasn't much of a demand on you, it might be a huge change, and you might think like, this is boring, and yeah, but when you think about it, you might go home and realize, wow, like I'm not having chest pains, and I'm actually coming home on time, and I'm able to eat dinner and enjoy the nice weather, and I'm not only having an hour to myself before I have to go to bed. So simple gifts, right? And I think this is a hard one for a lot of people, just with our way of living in the United States. Let me know what you think. We're getting towards the end. We have 2 more guideposts. And speaking of work, next one is going to be about cultivating meaningful work. So I will see you on that next video. Thanks for being here, and love to you all. Bye-bye.